Well, Property Tribes is delighted to announce that we are adding another string to our community resource bow for mortgages and finance, and we're very proud to be partnering with John Charcol, and I'm joined by Ray Bulger. And Ray, we're so excited that we're partnering up with you to serve the landlord community at Property Tribes. John Charcol, one of the best known and trusted names for buy-to-let mortgages.
And also one of the oldest broking firms in the country. I mean, the firm was started in 1974, and the name comes from part of the Christian names of the three founders, a John, a Charles and a Colin. And we occasionally get a new client phoning up and say, can I speak to John Charcol, please? And we say, there's no John Charcol. And he said, oh, I spoke to him last week or whatever. But the John was John Garfield, and he remained with the business for many years, until quite recently, in fact. And we've been through various different ownerships over the years. But we now have around 100 brokers. The main offices are in London and Southampton, but we do have some smaller offices elsewhere, Birmingham, Bristol, for example, and indeed in Scotland. And a key facet of the company has always been to be independent. Over the years, the market's changed dramatically, and of course now it's very competitive. Yes. Banks have got a little over 70% of the market, building societies most of the balance, and the fact that there is a wide range of different types of lender is good for us, it's good for clients, because different lenders have got different criteria. So in general, the larger lenders will tend to make their lending decision on the basis of a credit score. So for certain clients, they will get a good credit score, and that means they'll have a choice of any lender. But there's lots of other clients who are perfectly good credit risks, but they may not get a good credit score for various reasons, particularly in the non-buy-to-let market. You know, a good example is a first-time buyer who, by definition, because they never had a mortgage, will not get a particularly high credit score. And so part of the role of a broker like John Charcol, who a whole of market, we've always been independent, is to actually match the client with the appropriate lender. And of course people want to get the best deal, but the best deal for any one individual won't necessarily be the best deal for somebody else, because if you don't qualify for a loan from a lender because you can't meet their criteria, then the rate they're offering is irrelevant. So, you know, the starting point, whether it's buy-to-let or residential, is to go through the client's details. We'll do a fact find which gives us all the relevant details that we need. We can then give the client advice on what the options are. Now, some clients will have quite a good idea as to what they want, and that may well be what's appropriate, but actually quite often it's not, because they may not have considered all the avenues, because they won't be aware of what's in the market. So very commonly people, for example, will say, I want a 2-year fix. Question, why do you want a 2-year fix? Answer, probably because it's got the cheapest rate. Yeah. Now, that might be absolutely the right decision, but equally, if you can get a 5-year fix rate for perhaps only 0.5% more, is it worthwhile securing a longer term rate now while rates are low, and also avoiding the cost of a remortgage in 2 years' time, and the risk that you may not even be able to get another mortgage in 2 years' time? Because one of the things that has happened over the last 2 or 3 years is some significant regulatory changes, as a result of which some people who would have qualified for a mortgage 2 or 3 years ago now may still qualify, but not perhaps for a mortgage of the same size.
So we're talking about the Prudential Regulation Authority. Correct. Which was brought in 2 tranches last year. And I think it's very good that you touched on that point, because it really does highlight the need for a broker, because even on Property Tribes, we're seeing posts from landlords who are saying they've thought it would be easy to get a mortgage, and then they were turned down because they didn't meet the lender's criteria. And clearly, brokers such as John Charcol will only put clients forward for the products that they know that they actually qualify for.
Absolutely. I mean, that's really key. Apart from the fact you're wasting time if you go to a lender that can't lend, you also risk damaging the client's credit rating as well. So we know the criteria for all the lenders in the market, but as well as knowing the criteria, what's also important is understanding where the lenders may be prepared to bend their criteria. So a good example might be that a lender may say on their criteria, our maximum loan is £1 million. But actually, for the right client, they might be prepared to do more. So, whilst technology clearly is an important way of actually helping brokers and clients to understand what's going on, it's important that one marries that up with human knowledge. And of course, one only gets that with experience. And one of the benefits of the way John Charcol works is that we have a mortgage technical team which gathers lots of technical information to help brokers with. And if a broker has a case where they either have an issue with the lender not doing what we think they should be doing, or perhaps where it's a difficult case to place, it might be complicated, there might be one reason that causes a problem, there might be several, then the technical team can help that broker if needs be to actually place the case. And because of the volume of business we do, we have really strong relationships with most of the lenders in the market. And there's a big difference between being able to pick up the phone if we need to and talk to somebody senior, and just going onto the ordinary telephone line and talking to somebody who will try and be helpful but maybe doesn't have the wherewithal to actually get things done.
Landlords, they, as you say, they're very kind of price sensitive, and they might go for a 2-year fix because they see the lower rate. It's very important for landlords to work with a broker that can actually guide them to a better product that they may not be aware of, they may not understand what is right for them.
Absolutely, and one of the reasons why some people might choose a 5-year fix rather than a 2-year fix is that very often you can borrow more money if you take a 5-year fix. And the reason for that is that the PRA rules stipulate that lenders must assume a minimum interest rate of 5.5% when they do their affordability calculation. However, there is an exception where the initial rate is fixed for at least 5 years, when lenders are free to choose what rate they use for the affordability assessment. Some lenders will use the actual pay rate. A lot will use a rate between the pay rate and 5.5%, but the net result is that if you take a 2-year fix, your affordability assessment will be based on a rate of 5.5%. If you take a 5-year fix, it may well be based on a rate much lower. And if you're trying to maximise your leverage by getting a good LTV, that could be a key reason why you might choose a particular lender, even if their rate's not the cheapest.
Quite. That's a very, very good point. Clearly, we're expecting further base rate rises this year. They're saying as early as May, perhaps another one later in the year. Just to finish, what's your feeling for landlords that are currently remortgaging or taking out their initial finance? I would be quite tempted to go certainly from a 5-year fix, or possibly there are some 10-year fixes now, aren't there?
Very few 10-year fixes in the buy-to-let market. So realistically, probably 5 years is the way to go. And where we do have 10-year fixes, I think a good way of comparing them with a 5-year fix is to say, if I take a 5-year fix at whatever the rate is, what rate will I have to pay in 5 years' time to be at least as well off as if I take a 10-year fix? And making what I would regard as a reasonable assumption as to where rates will be in 5 years' time, although of course that's a difficult judgment. I think the balance between 5 and 10-year rates is probably about right. So you then got the key question of early repayment charge, and one reason a lot of people have put off fixing for longer than 5 years is that in most cases you'll be locked into what can be quite high early repayment charges. So a lot depends on individual aspirations, whether people intend to keep a property long term, as to how long you should go for.
Absolutely. Well, it's so great to have you on board with us at Property Tribes. And Ray, I see you quoted in all the broadsheets and the media all the time, so it's really lovely to meet you in person as well. And John Charcol brokers are going to be on hand on Property Tribes to answer your questions. They're going to be using PT Brokers as their name on Property Tribes, and we also have a dedicated phone line for all of your inquiries to go straight through to the PT Brokers team here at John Charcol to attend to any of your mortgage requirements. So we very much look forward to working with you.
Likewise.
Thank you very much, Ray.